You've obviously been through a lot coming as the son of immigrants, having not everything given to you. What have you instilled in your sons to have that driving success, not having that burning pain of not being successful from the start? Thank you.
Thanks. It's a great question. And look, I think the difficulty is defining success. Right? I'm not sure what success is. It's not peace of mind. Right? It's not attainment of a defined goal. It's constantly setting goals for yourself and achieving them or driving through them. So I think with my kids, my only hope and my only wish and my message to them is find a passion and hammer it, right? Let that passion consume your life. Do nothing to moderation and everything to excess, right? Which is the opposite of what most people tell their kids. But do you know anything moderate that you like? I don't. I hate living by common denominator, right? It's just not a fun place to be. To go to the level that everybody's at is disgusting. Nobody's interested in you. Nobody wants to be with you. It's just not fun. And look, the success, I've had so many failures. And honestly, I look at it and say, what keeps you going? There's a great surfer named Laird Hamilton, and all my boys surf, so to capture them, I still surf with them. They give me like 15 minutes of time in the water, right? And he's probably the best surfer in the world. So one day I said, you know what, I'm going to bring, it's all about risk, right? It's not about success, it's about risk. You can be unbelievably successful if you eliminate risk from your life. You'll also be the most boring person on earth. But, right, the quotient, when you look at any business, if you look at science, if you look at literature, it's you, on the win-loss ratio, if you eliminate the losses, your win record is going to be much better. You don't have to swing for the fence. But that risk profile is what it's all about. So Laird Hamilton, one of the best surfers in the world, I brought him in for 300 of my investors in those square, sovereign wealth funds, public and corporate pension funds, college endowments. They're finance geeks. So they thought that I was smoking too much Maui Wowie when I said the guest speaker is going to be Laird Hamilton, the surfer, right? They said he's finally lost his mind. So we brought him in and talking about risk. And the last question of the day to him was, how can you, when you're paddling down the face of a 75-foot wave, not be scared to death in that last paddle, knowing you could be throwing yourself to the death? His answer was my answer to you, is you're not frightened, because I was frightened for the 35 years preparing for that last paddle, right? All those roads lead to your ability to take more risk. Not to be more conservative, not to stockpile more money, not to be more arrogant, not to be less generous. What I have found is if you want to be selfish, forget yourself and fill yourself with generosity with everybody else. If you concentrate on everybody else, the universe will take care of you. If you concentrate on you, somehow the walls go down, right? We all know that. So, I get up every day saying I'm the luckiest person in the world. I love what I do. I would do it for free. I'm pushing through comfort barriers every day. I'm learning so much from everybody that I'm with every day, and it's fun, it's entertaining, and I'm contributive. I feel that the people that I hire, if you look at philanthropy, I said the best thing I can do as a Lebanese, I'm an entrepreneur. I've got to run through that barrier and make things happen that won't otherwise happen. And I'll hire people around the world and arm them with the money that they can do things, that they can educate their children, that they can have families, and I'll bust through those comfort barriers, and that's where I find it. But everybody finds it in a different place. But if you go with the pack, look, Harvard is one of the greatest institutions in the world. There's only one problem with Harvard. When you go there and you graduate, it's so ingrained in your mind is the Harvard class that you graduated with, that it's hard for them to get out of their own path, right? This competitive nature of saying there's kind of a Harvard mantra, or there's a Wharton mantra, or there's a Stanford mantra, or even a USC mantra, is limiting. So what do you find? If you're that, where you're going to find The best opportunity is befriending the friendless. You're gonna find it on people who don't have connections, people who don't have that educational background, and people who are not interested in those people. You're not gonna find it in the pond that you were swimming, but people don't like to go there, right? It's too painful. It's that stature, and what is stature? You can't eat stature. Stature's not contributory to the environment, to the society, to your family, to anybody. So, pushing through all these barriers, running for Congress, why would anybody in their right mind put up with the abuse of what you have to take in our system to get great people to make the sacrifice, to go pound on that door of the government and just move it, just chisel it a bit, right? It's dangerous. It's illogical. It's brutally difficult. But if we don't have great people hammering on that system, the system will decay. So I think it's just finding that passion and throttle down, whatever it is.
I think we have a question here from Dr. Khoury.
Thanks very much. Mr. Barak, welcome. Two yes and no type questions, if I may first. Who got the name Barak spelled wrong, you or the president?
The president does nothing wrong, I'm sure. So
Great answer. The second question is, do you have an REIT in which all of us can participate?
we do have an REIT. It's called CLNY. It's Colony Financial, and it's a public REIT, and there's many great mortgage hybrid REITs. I don't give investment advice to friends because, today, as we all know, the transparency in front of us is in baby steps. But it's a very conservatively run mortgage REIT. There's several of them. There's ours, there's Starwood, there's Service.
Good, thank you. The question now.
Thank you for the plug.
Oh, I appreciate that. The question is, upon reflection, long reflections, I came to the conclusion that the biggest legacy in the history of the Lebanese communities anywhere are probably two people who never sought, in fact, they shied away from financial success. And I'm sure you know of them. You're not old enough to know them. And they are Khalil Gibran and Father Sherbil, one of the most famous saints in the world. In fact, everywhere I go, I find that people are aware of Saint Sherbil. What do you say to those that don't consider financial success, it's almost like a follow-up to what the gentleman said, as being central to their lives, and in fact, capitalize mostly on humility, focus on non-financial matter? I'm asking you this question as a professor of finance, and I'm sure that surprises you.
No, it doesn't. It's a brilliant question, but short answer, Khalil Gibran, probably one of the most world-recognized thought leaders in every religious denomination. Got there out of breaking his own comfort barriers, right? The prophet, at a time that he wrote that, was a dangerous place for him to be. And so I look at it exactly the same, that wandering through, connecting all of those diamonds of thoughts and rubies and coming up with a universal tone of saying, our children are not our own, that we're the bow from which the arrow is cast. And once that arrow is cast, they're the children of God. That rings true in every country, in every language, and every religion, denominated by courage. And I think this is the message, that generosity of spirit, that ability to do it now, the living in the moment, the romance, right? A jaza, to sit in a Lebanese restaurant over the Berdowny and have an 80-year-old man stand at the table and start singing and reciting poetry. Where does this come from? Right? Can you imagine at Spago's? It's this beauty of spirit. I don't think it has anything to do. And the Lebanese are that way about it, right? In hospitality of Lebanese, it's not based on materialism, it's based on generosity. It's what's not available. Thank you, especially coming from a professor of finance. That's a good question.
Thanks. We have another question here from Mr. Hassan Sadiq.
Thank you very much for sharing with us your word of wisdom. My question is, in your business, what is the decision that you made that you regretted later?
Well, where should I start? First of all, I used to regret decisions that didn't maximize results. And then I got myself to the place of saying the most useless worry in the world is regrets. So spending time on regrets of the past or expectations of the future is the most meaningless thing that I could do in me contributing to the world. It's do it now, right? It's be here now. It's what's in the moment. So I don't really have many regrets. I'm not saying that I haven't screwed up a million times on things, but I would say there are people regrets. Not, business, there's wins, there's losers, there's always another deal, there's always another project. Some are better, some are worse, some are smarter, some are, and what happens is the better businessmen find themselves in trouble because the business becomes boring. The better that it is, the more bored you get. So you send collect coupons on the buildings you own. And you say, you know what, this is pretty good, but I don't feel challenged. I'm not really in the arena. I need to step up to do something else. And the regrets that I've had are really just people mistakes. Probably the same as all of us. It's not mistakes of path. I've found that the worst path that I've gone on has taken me to the best door. So I don't know where it's going, but if you defy inertia, if you push that rock down the mountain, you're going to go someplace. You're not going to go where you think you're going to go, ever. At least I never have. But it's going to go someplace, so just get going, right? Just show up. It's with kids coming out of school. It's don't worry about a job. Go get something. Volunteer for everything. Shake hands, look people in the eyes, volunteer for everything. Stand up when ladies come and go to the table, open doors, call your mom, you'll be successful. So I don't really lament regrets that way, because I've just found that by letting that go, right, regrets start leading to an edge, an angle. And you know how, one of the most amazing things is when you sit with somebody who's agendaless. I'll never forget Deepak Chopra. I met him one time accidentally, and it was at a dinner, and I knew nothing about Deepak Chopra. And I sat down at a table and was nuclear physicists and biologists and this cadre of unbelievable people. And he was there, and they were drilling him, just drilling him. And I walked away with such unbelievable respect because I said, he's probably one of the few men that I've met that's agendaless. Right? There was none of that. There was no regret. There was no animus. There was no angle. So rather than what we do all of our lives, which is build angles and engineer and connive and shrewdness and tactics, the most powerful is the one that doesn't have any of that. Right? It's almost like Sun Tzu. Right? It's don't be fearful if a warrior comes to the battlefield and he's got a sword, he wants to fight in close, so you shoot him from afar. If he shows up with a bow and arrow, you know that he doesn't want to come in close, so you slit his throat. If he shows up naked, get out of town. Dr. John.
Tom, I'm Ray John. We know each other. There are a lot of people here who love to do. They have richness in their life, in their business life. What would you recommend for them? Those who are well-to-do, have large assets, large financial capabilities, what do you recommend to do in their life in order to benefit from that richness?
I'm not capable of giving of giving financial advice. But what I think we all need for life extension is to stay relevant. The biggest fear of all of us, and I'm sure if you reflect inside yourself, is for us to become not relevant. Not relevant in our family, not relevant in our relationship, not relevant in our business, not relevant in our community. So when you've had the good fortune of attaining wealth, then we move into a capital preservation mode, which is probably the most agonizing mode in anybody's life, which is why you asked the beautiful question, is, where do you go and what do you do? How do you not risk it? How do you preserve it? But how do you stay relevant? And my answer is the same at that spectrum as it is to my boys at the beginning spectrum, is disregard it. Disregard. If you do not take risk, you will age and you will become non-relevant. If you're a politician, if you're a diplomat, and you do not take risk, you soon will be out of a job. So I think the biggest challenge is engineering that fine line of relevancy, and relevancy comes from generosity, not hoarding. So my advice is don't concentrate on building the monetary armory. Concentrate on expanding the largesse of your good fortune to others, however you think of that, right? However you think of it. And to me, that's it. It's the generosity, not the self-accumulation.
Mr. Barak, thank you for coming, speaking to us this evening. I have a question for you regarding your business, specifically your decision to open up an office in Beirut, which I was familiar with until there, Rufosh. As an American businessman and as someone who's Lebanese, who says Lebanese tend to do well all over the world, can you please tell us a little bit on your opinions on doing business in Lebanon, the obvious obstacles, how to get around them, and how Lebanon, since it's near and dear to all of our hearts, can attract some of that diasporic talent, some of that investment, and take some business maybe away from the Gulf states, which have worked so well to attract it. Thank you.
Thanks. It's a great question. And first of all, let me tell you, when I went back to Lebanon the first time, my grandfather sat down and said, look, you don't get it. You're not really Lebanese. You're American Lebanese. So you're going to walk into a store, and the first thing somebody's going to say is, thank God you're here, and I want to give you the family discount. The first thing you say is, no, you want to pay retail. The Lebanese are so smart in Lebanon. I do not do business in Lebanon. We have an office in Beirut that services the Middle East, and it's staffed by brilliant, benevolent, beneficent, incredible Lebanese. But I gave up early in Lebanon and said, I give up. You're all better than we could ever be. And we do not go near transactions in Lebanon. But the Lebanese in Lebanon, the multiplicity of languages, the ingenuity, the education, the elegance of manners, of civilization, of dedication, of their adaptability is unbelievable. But it's right? I mean, it's why everywhere we go, I deal with Lebanese every day in the Gulf. I deal with Lebanese every day in Africa. I deal with Lebanese every day in Mexico. Most of them with our same exact stories. So the diaspora outside of Lebanon is the key to Lebanese success. And us incorporating what you're talking about, right? Creating that nexus as really education without borders, entrepreneurship without borders. One of my sons, Nick, created an on-site internet site, which was destined to do that, to create mentorship for high school kids in Lebanon who can't connect, who have ideas but no mentors, no people, no financing. So all that can happen. I think doing business inside of Lebanon is quite complicated. I look at myself as being an anchovy on a Caesar salad. I don't want to be eaten right at the top. And I say that respectfully.
Barak, thank you for your comments. They were very interesting, very well said, inspiring, really. I'm a little worried about the need to have Lebanese DNA since I'm Irish. But if you can say you're Irish, I guess I can say I'm Lebanese.
Exactly.
I was looking at your rules, and I think it's a great list. There are two things that seem to be missing that you see on a lot of similar lists from very successful people, and I wonder if you might offer some comments on them. One is about team building, selecting your team, validating the people that you work with, and the other is about validating facts, finding out details, mastering and probing the information you have.
Both good points, and both should be on any list. The second one, the reason that I leave it out is I assume that at the level that we're all talking, those things are a given, right? So that everybody in these pools, in my business, everybody's smart. Anybody who's in the private equity business has those arrows in their quiver. They're smart, they're financially capable, they have fiduciary history, they're analytically tight, they have a networking system and an underwriting system that makes sense. So what's the differentiating factor, right? How we differentiate ourselves in my business is really the key, because everything's an auction, right? If my team goes out and bids on buying a company and comes back and high fives and says, this is awesome, we just smashed Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, I start crying. I said, what? Right? That you build a business by being the highest bidder against the smartest people in the world with the lowest cost of capital? There's something wrong with this picture, right? If you look at corporations, the greatest corporate leaders lie like you cannot believe. It's like the Wizard of Oz saying, I have a great team. It's not the great team. It's the leader. So Jamie Dimon, if you take JP Morgan, JP Morgan is an incredible bank. Anybody work for JP Morgan? JP Morgan is an amazing bank. I promise you, JP Morgan is Jamie Dimon. Citibank was Sandy Wheel. GE was Jack Welch. Continental Airlines was Gordon Bethune. It's that leader taking ordinary people and forcing them beyond what their normal comfort zone is. So team is important, but it's driven by self-image. If I show up to work at 10 o'clock every day, and I gain 50 pounds, and I read the paper 5 hours a day, and I go play golf for 4 hours a day, and I lie, and I cheat, and I steal, and I never do what I say, I could have the greatest team in the world, and I will fail so fast that it'll be unbelievable. On the opposite side, if I hired ordinary people and instill in them those disciplines primarily by example, and let them more or less find their own way, right, within boundaries. Even in my business, which is a pretty regimed business, my experience has been those people will keep pushing through their comfort barriers. So, you start with somebody who is a nanny for your children, and they become an executive vice president of the hospitality group. That story will create a team faster and better than anything imaginable. So that's just been I don't concentrate on team building in the sense of General Patton marching the troops through endless battles. I would rather have those that have been experienced in those battles by my side, so people that have had real battles and losses are more valuable than those who have not. But it's leadership and instilling in them leadership. So I think we get to the same place. I just defined it probably poorly by excluding it. But I think you're exactly right.
Okay, a question from Mr. Karim Jawdi.
Karim Jawdi, thank you again for coming, and great to see you again. And most important, thank you for sharing some of your challenges and success and a lot of wisdom. I deal a lot with young people, and we have quite a few young people here. The challenge they are facing, they don't want to pay their dues. They don't want to pay their own. They want to start where you and I ended. What's your advice to the young people to be successful eventually?
For you to adopt them is the simplest way to get there. No, look, I have so much faith in the next generation, but it's different, right? And it's hard for us to see through it. The opportunity set is not as defined, and the risk profile is a little more dangerous. So, again, I think that while you're young, you can afford to be hammered. You can afford to lose. You can afford to make a mistake. You can afford to wander. You can afford to take risks. And it's focusing on the benefit. I mean, part of what you're saying is it's a very difficult environment. We're in a building. For example, we moved from Century City to Santa Monica into Googlesville. When I first got there, it was empty. So it was very cool. Then, a company called Riot Games, who are USC graduates, smartest kids you've ever seen, that have a video game called League of Legends. The average IQ in this place is like 260. The average age is 18. They wear flip-flops and ride skateboards and bikes to work. And each one is smarter than the next. So I'm in the elevator with them every day. So now I carry a Samsung. The reason I carry a Samsung is I'm in the elevator the other day and I'm in a suit. One of these brilliant kids comes in, he's got flip-flops and he doesn't take them out for about 5 years. By the way, they make about $350,000, $400,000 to get out of school. Right? And these are gifted kids who live 500 apartments. They don't date, they go in groups. I don't get any of it. So, he gets in the elevator and he's got Cheetos in his beard and all over his, it's like he's 34 and he's eating Cheetos. And I go get his flip-flops and I'm sitting on my BlackBerry, he's on Samsung. And he looks at me and says, I know what you're thinking. I said, you do? He says, yeah, you want to be me. All right, I mean, it's a different deal. They'll find their own way. They're smarter. It's just different for them.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Brax. Brax in Arabic, I think. Barax in American language. And so, we are proud that you have Lebanese descent. You are of Lebanese descent. You are from our mountains. We are proud of your success. And you are international, successful businessmen and good investors. My question to you, you love Lebanon as it appears, and you have office in Lebanon, as you said. Suppose you have to value the economical situation in Lebanon in the time being and its surrounding and special circumstances. How you valued, suppose we put it in your portfolio. You have hundreds of billions in your portfolio. Suppose we add this matter to your portfolio. How you evaluate it and how you look to it economically for the future or for the medium time or whatever it is. Enlighten us, please. Thank you.
The way I value it is very simple, which is no one owns Lebanon. Nobody rules Lebanon. Lebanon exists in all of our hearts, and every one of us is a steward of Lebanon. Not Beirut, not Rumana, not Zutli, not all of the irony that exists. I mean, to have a country with $65 billion of debt and $190 billion in cash deposits, no one in the world can understand. Right? I was there 3 weeks ago. I showed up to have dinner with some of my friends. Everybody says, you're flying in an N-Series jet. I said, yeah, I'm the last person that they want to kill. But they want somebody to be able to go out and tell the story that Lebanon is alive and well and doing great. Because everybody you sit down with, and every restaurant when you say, how are things? Never been better. I said, but there's nobody in the hotels. There's no one on the street. Never been better. Everything is going to be solved, right? The Lebanese are unbelievable. Against all odds. Life rocks. The clubs are packed. The restaurants are packed. The people are euphoric. There's just not a person in the hotel. None of the Gulf Arabs are there. Right? The businesses are not producing anything. So what is it? It's a flame, right? It's priceless. It's not economic. So this little experiment in Western Eastern civilization can be bigger than, look at the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring turned into the Arab Fall. Why? Because there was no underpinning. You can't take thousands of years of civilizations and through the change of a regime or by economic nomenclature or pricing or value or penetration change the basic DNA of that culture. Ours is the heart of the Levant, right? Where we live, where we come from, what we are has always been the center of controversy. There's never been a time that it's been calm or valued or priceable. So I don't view it that way. There's too many hands of too many desperate powers that all have different vested interests in the direction that it goes. So it ends up being a playground of intellectual intelligence and military intervention from every country imaginable. And what comes out of that is the proliferation of these 20 million, 21 million, 22 million Lebanese, all of you, outside, who now, by the third generation, are getting the scent of what is it that makes us different? Where does this unknown come from? What is it? Why us? How did we get it? Why are we the managers of every commercial enterprise in the Gulf? Why are we the managers of every investment company, of every sovereign wealth firm, every sovereign wealth fund across the Arab world? Why are we the owners of every logistics business in oil and precious minerals in Africa? Why are we the wealthiest investing family in Mexico, in Australia, in Venezuela, in Ecuador, in Brazil? What is that? Is that an accident? Impossible. Right? That's the flame of life. That's the pricelessness. That's the preciousness. I have no idea of the economics.
How are you, sir? I want to ask you a question from your list. You said develop a culture, sixth sense. Can you talk about that a little bit, please? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, thank God. Are you Lebanese? Yeah, so you're born with it, right? Cultural sixth sense is this ability, as a young lawyer in Saudi Arabia, I used to sit there and be amazed because the English would show up, and they'd show up with a mother, a father, 3 children. They'd rent an apartment. They'd put the children in school. They'd go to the grocery store. They'd spend weeks before they ever even asked for a meeting. Chinese and Koreans would show up, 1,000 people, investigate everything, spend weeks and weeks and weeks. And Americans would come with a briefcase and say, they've got to be in Kuwait in 3.5 hours, right? They have one deal in the bag, 3 hours to spend in the middle of Riyadh. No cultural sixth sense. Why? Because America was built on the melding, on the getting rid of our culture. So we're all immigrants. Right? I mean, some of us may have come from Plymouth Rock, other of us came from the belly of the cargo ship. You came from Plymouth Rock. And so this ability of being able to adapt and understand those cultural differences, those cultural nuances, those cultural kindnesses are absolutely essential. Because it's that commonality that breeds confidence. And it's the thing that as Americans we're the worst at, right? Because we're spoiled. Everybody speaks English. Everybody ships things to America, so we're buyers more than sellers. But that cultural bridge, that cultural adaptability as we go global is a gigantic advantage. And we have it. Other cultures naturally don't have it. But it's like befriending the friendless. Right? You never know who needs or respects or admires your friendship. So this blend amongst different nationalities, different levels of, hanging out with people that are only successful is not going to make you more successful. because they don't want you to be more successful than them. Right? That's why I hate going to conferences. I said, do you think I'm really? I want to go to a conference and speak with the 6 smartest men and women in my business? What a waste of time. They're going to mislead me, they're going to re-engineer, they're going to tell everybody things that won't work so that they don't compete with them. Right? It doesn't work. So I think this cultural sensitivity is just that. It's playing to your advantage of being adaptable.
Good evening. What an inspirational speech, I have to say. I heard so many beautiful things about you, but I didn't expect this, so thank you. You touched upon a lot of spiritual notes in your speech. Even before you mentioned the back shoulder, I had this question. I hope I'm assuming right, but it seems that spirituality you embrace it in your life. And my question to you is, how important has that been in your path?
Thank you. It's a beautiful question, and thank you for your compliment. Look, it's essential, because it's all that really exists, right? And I gave all, so I didn't waste time. I gave you all this letter to my kids, which was just my feelings in returning to Lebanon. And this idea that we come with nothing, we leave with nothing. That's a hard reality. The last chapter for all of us is exactly the same. It is over. It just is over. Right? There's no extension. There's no maybe it's not going to be for you. It's no maybe if I have more money it's going to be an easier exit. No, if I have right? It's the last chapter is always the same. So just in the order of life, I don't know who God is or what God is, but I know that there is a God. And the balance of this universe in my life works better when I'm building equity rather than taking it. It's just how I look at it. So I hate being a guest at somebody's house. I'm not a good guest. I like hosting people. I don't like being their guest. The harmony of spirituality, that unknown area that we can't define, is probably the most important energy level that all of us have inside. When we're in tune with it, we're on fire. When we're out of tune with it, we're dying. Not by any measure of which God, whether it's Shia, whether it's Sunni, whether it's Maronite, whether it's Malachi, whether it's Roman Catholic, whether it's Jewish, it's inconsequential. All of those things were invented by man. Someplace, this karmic energy exists, and it exists at a time like now where once in a while we can kind of touch each other, right? Where you really feel the lack of bullshit in the air. It's very rare, but that's what God is to me.
Okay, one more question from Ms. Camille.
Hi, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure. My name is Camille Alec, and I'm also a member of a foreign policy think tank here in Los Angeles called Pacific Council on International Policy. Through that organization, I have the pleasure of being the co-chair of the Women's Initiative, which we encourage women in leadership and governance. So my question to you today is, how does your organization support and encourage women in leadership within your organization? And also, what advice can you give women that will one day not only be a plethora of Lebanese American businessmen, Lebanese American businesswomen?
Beautiful question. Now I'm going to end in trouble. I have a daughter, so my focus has been to answer those questions in my own life and for her, right? So really looking at up close and personal. So first let me say, there absolutely is a glass ceiling. Absolutely. So people say there's no difference between men and women in hiring. That's not true. Every business in the world is scared to death that a great woman is going to become so confused by the damnation of riches that she's not going to sacrifice her life for that company. So, what do I mean by that? You are all unbelievably talented women. So, you have a a litany of things that you're supposed to be great at. You're supposed to be somebody's unbelievable daughter, unbelievable mate, unbelievable mother, unbelievable business person, unbelievably interesting in philanthropic matters, an incredible friend, gracious, kind, beautiful, considerate, thoughtful, balanced. On the other hand, what is a man? He's successful. That's not an even playing field. You, wonderful woman, have this damnation of riches that you're expected to be all these things. It's impossible. It is friggin' impossible. You cannot do it. Right? You can't raise 5 kids at home, be an incredible mother, work 25 hours a day, be the daughter to your mother that you're supposed to be the friends to the friends that you're supposed to be, and do all this effortlessly and not have frustration. So what happens in business is normally great women don't make it up the ladder, not because they can't, because they choose not to. Somewhere along that line, they say, look, I need balance. Balance is what no business wants to hear. We're not in the balance business. You want balance? Go somewhere else. You want to be a star? You come here. And to be a star means you sacrifice every day, everything that you've got, and you put it here. That's what businesses really want. So is there a glass ceiling? Yes. Not because of unequal pay. There's absolutely equal pay. And we constantly are all over the map trying to find great women. Most businesses are. It is so hard, I can't tell you. It's so difficult. A great woman who has a mate, a guy or a gal, right? So now you have to engineer the couple. So engineering the couple, you just reduce your efficacy by 50%. Now I've got some dude that I've got to deal with, right? Who is not invested in you dedicating your life to me. I want you to dedicate your life to me. Just like the men, I have a conversation with them all the time. Your son is not going to be in therapy because you didn't show up for a soccer game at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It isn't going to happen. There's got to be a balance, right? And my mother always used to say, you know, you learn what a man is by listening to your mother, but you learn how to be a man by watching your father. I never saw my father. He went to work at 6 in the morning, he came home at midnight, 7 days a week, that was it. But my notion of what a man was watching that cadence. Wonderful women it's so confusing, right? Because you can be anything, but you can't be everything. A successful man doesn't suffer that damnation of riches. So, you know, my advice is the same as my advice to everybody, is you choose the options you will not otherwise have an opportunity to replicate. For women, it's a family, it's children at a certain point in life. It's that intersection of life where you're building that peace. Balancing that with a career can be done, but thinking that in your 30 to 40s that you're going to have a family and be at the top of your game in a business world where the people with whom you're competing are all in, I think is quite difficult. I think women who say, I'm all in, same terms as a man, take me to the locker room, I just want to be evaluated, heads up exactly the way that it is, kick the bejesus out of men. They always have, right? It's why, I mean, little boys should go to boys' schools. The girls are always smarter till we're about 93. So I think it's self-imposed. You just can't do it all. But you can't convince women that, right? So it's like my father said, you know, way on, you have to learn those 3 beautiful words to get along with a woman. I said, Dad, that's so archaic. I love you. He said, no, give up early. I think it's a quantity.
That's good. Our last question is from Ms. Florence Matar.
I would like to find out if we will be seeing a building with your name on it because I'm always wondering why our community doesn't believe in charity, and I see all kinds of names all over the city for charity, like hospitals, cultural buildings or schools, to have Lebanese names on them. I'd like to see more of that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great. And by the way, in defense of Lebanese, there's lots of Lebanese philanthropy going on. It doesn't happen the same way as some of our other cultural brethren, right? So you would be surprised at all the institutions on which I serve or I'm a trustee of the philanthropic effect that comes from many Lebanese who choose to be anonymous or not have their names associated with what goes on. The county jail is probably where my name will be heralded first, or my father's grocery store. I'm trying to get TJ to go back and revive it, and that should be our legacy, Barracks Market. That the key to life is selling oranges, but selling oranges when no one else has them. So the gift that Lebanon has given to us is in our hearts. We have those oranges buried and can bring them up and harvest and produce them when others don't. So it'll happen everywhere. Philanthropy, by the way, is not an understood concept in the Middle East. Lebanon more so because of the Christian element, but Sharia law and Quranic law handles it in a much different way, a great way, right? A more responsible way than leaving it just to the generosity of the individual. So it's a hard concept for the Middle East to deal with in dealing with the kind of the philanthropic things that we have. I think the best contribution that we can all make is with the people who are surrounding us every day, the people that we touch every day, the businesses that you run, the households that you have. Those little baby steps of just making them better is more impactful than giving away 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, 20 million to an administrative process that has no footprints. So thank you very much. You've worn me out. I appreciate it.
Mubarak, thank you for this inspiring speech. We were introduced with figures, and we discovered a spiritual man, as Lamia mentioned. Well, I happen to have studied business administration, to be an ENA graduate, having studied law. But listening to you, I had the impression of reading a Phoenician high priest. You started by talking about karma and how being part of the universe and merging with God. These are really inspiring lessons you gave us. Well, as a good leader, I have to thank my great team, if you don't mind. The advisory board, chaired by Karim Jawdi, the co-chairs of this event, Dr. Ayub and Dr. Salim Fadil, our great sponsor, Rich Media, Hunida Saad, who was generous enough to offer our advertisement campaign on all the Arabic TV channels. Our intern, Renee, our MC. And welcome everyone, and please join us for a drink. Welcome.